Thank you very much, Anthony. I'm really pleased to be here talking to you about inherited diseases, and tonight's focus really is going to be on simple inherited diseases. I wish simple meant easy, but it unfortunately just means simple. And the speed of which I will go through this presentation will be primarily based on how quickly I want to get down to the pub and watch the World Cup as well. So hopefully I will be so clear and so brilliant in my explanations that nobody will have any questions at the end and we can all go and enjoy ourselves. But to go ahead and kick off today, I'm going to be really covering some advice and guidance that you may want to consider for your clients, really to provide you with some kind of support and some backup with what you're probably already doing in practice. To make you aware of the resources that are available for DNA testing and other testing for simple diseases. A little bit of a refresher on the disease modes of inheritance and primarily focusing on how you apply that information. And talking a little bit about optimizing DNA tests, how to be a good consumer, how to eliminate simple inherited diseases with a minimum impact on the biodiversity of the breeds, and finishing off with a little bit more information about some of the free resources and information that are available to you. I will stress that a lot of this talk today will be focused on Kennel Club registered dogs because a lot of our tools have been built around our own registration database. So please keep that in mind, that it might not be as directly relevant to every single client you have, but the principles and the concepts and the tests that are available will be universal, whether your client is breeding pedigree dogs that are registered with the Kennel Club, pedigree dogs that aren't registered with the Kennel Club, or any crossbreeds, that's particularly sort of the F1 crosses that are becoming increasingly popular, and of course have some of the same concerns and susceptibility to inherited diseases. So just to give a little definition about what I mean by simple inherited diseases is really I'm talking about a disease where a single specific gene is identified and associated with that disease, and when it's abnormal is where the problem arises. And as I'm sure you're all familiar with, you inherit 50% of your genes from one parent and 50% of your genes from the other. And for simple inherited diseases, you would need one abnormal gene from each parent in order to cause the disease as part of recombination. And there are many simple diseases that have associated DNA tests. These are sort of somewhat the low-hanging fruit of the genetic testing sort of tree, though that's not to diminish actually sometimes how challenging and how complicated and how demanding on technology it is to actually identify some of these difficult genes and to make really robust and useful DNA tests. So a good place to start if you're advising your client or if you're interested in dog breeding yourself is to find out a little bit about what sort of tests are actually available, and being obviously completely unbiased, I would recommend having a look at the Kennel Club website. The single gene mutations and the simple mutations that we're going to be talking about today are normally breed specific, though some breeds, if they have been related historically, may share some of the similar genes. Most of them are able to be tested based on a mouth swab, which makes it non-invasive and very easy, or sometimes saliva and blood samples are required. Oftentimes, owners of the dogs will take and submit the samples directly to the laboratory themselves, which is reasonable and cost-effective, but what we really hope to encourage is that more veterinary practices would consider getting involved in this process by offering perhaps a sampling service, which also gives you the opportunity to kind of double-check that the correct dog that is being swabbed is actually been identified as part of the submission process. It also gives you, of course, a wonderful opportunity to talk to your clients about the applied side of this information and how they can use those DNA test results. And a summary of many of the health-related tests can be found, as I said, the breed-specific on the Kennel Club website. If you haven't been to the website in a little while, you probably will notice some changes. The two areas I would most highly recommend you have a look at are the health page, which has been primarily designed for the general public, so this is where you may want to direct your clients to, and also the vet and researchers section, which has obviously been developed with your needs in mind, with kind of appropriate resources and tools associated. So if you're getting started, wanting to know if you've never bred a particular dog before, or if you haven't bred in a little while, I always recommend as the first stop to click on the Breed Information Center, where you can find a lot of resources about the health tests that are available, which I'll be talking about today, but also breed club information, information on the Assured Breeder Scheme, breed rescue, etc., etc., etc. And again, this has primarily been designed for the general public, i.e. for your clients, particularly the sort of the breeder section, also a bit of information about if you're really just starting out and not even sure what sort of dog you're interested in. But there are also some breed-specific advice areas designed more for the veterinary practice. Sorry for the infomercial, everybody. So once you've had, once you access the Breed Information Center, it's quite easy. You type in the name of the breed that you are interested in finding the health information about. In this case, I've picked a classic and one that you're probably quite familiar with, the Labrador Retriever. And, apologies. There we go. You get an idea about some general health information, again, sort of written for the general public, and the schemes or advice that we feel are relevant to this breed. And by we, I mean the Kennel Club, the breed clubs, and our external veterinary and genetic advisors. So it isn't really just me personally sitting and thinking up what would be a good idea. We're very keen to incorporate as much expertise as possible in this health information and in the advice. And what we've tried to do as part of the Breed Information Center is give some sort of prioritization and some structure into what people may wish to consider as part of their breeding practices and their breeding strategies. So you can see that at the top of the schemes or advice relevant to this breed, we've got hip dysplasia scheme and an eye scheme that is recommended for Labradors, as well as sort of the elbow and a DNA test for a particular eye condition, PRA. And at the bottom of the screen, which I happen to circle in green, there's something called other tests available. And those are really DNA tests or other schemes that are relevant to the breed, and they are known to be conditions in the breed, but they're not considered to be sort of spread throughout the breed. So if you have only a limited amount of resources or a limited amount of money to put into this, the sort of top 4 recommendations and requirements if you're an assured breeder are considered what's most important for the general testing health of that breed, and the bottom 2 DNA tests are something that you would be encouraged to consider if you have any particular concerns about those conditions, or if you want to be particularly robust in your DNA testing practices. So the ones that I've circled very haphazardly, I apologize for, it looks like a small child has attacked it with crayons, but I think you get the gist. Those are the simple inherited diseases that, examples that I will probably be talking about tonight. So it gives you an idea of the kind of mixture between simple and complex diseases that we consider. As a little bit of a shorthand, if you don't have the time to look up a breed individually, or if you didn't want to send your clients home to do that themselves, we have something called the breed-specific health test list, and it's an all breeds summarized on a several-paged PDF. It highlights the tests that the Kennel Club record on our tools and resources. It's only really focused on health-related tests, so there are other gene tests and DNA tests that are available that are sort of for other reasons, but this is really focused just on health. It also lists the companies or testing laboratories that provide those tests. That is not comprehensive, but those are the laboratories by whom we have a relationship with, in as much that they will send us the results of the test directly, so they don't go through the client, so we know we get all of the information, whatever the results may be, directly through those companies. And they also tend to be companies that